Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome officially to the channel. This is a series where we look at various different oddities in gaming that developers made either to help the player get more into the game visually or physically. Most have had influences on games and designs years past when they were active, and today we have a bit of a one-off, and honestly, it's kind of amazing assuming you're into trains, because this might be the first controller ever made to help you get more into being a train conductor? Now, I'm not sure how many of you are into trains, but if you are, you might want to throw in your conductor's hat for this one, because I kid you not, this is a wild looking controller that looks designed to give you the closest experience you can get to operating a real train, at least on a computer. Released initially in 2003, this massive controller was designed to work with Microsoft Train Simulator, Train Sim World 2, My First Train Set, Trains Railways, Trains Classes, and Trains 2004. And that's just naming a few of them. I'm gonna be honest, I had no idea train simulators were this big, but frankly in a world full of goat simulators, farming simulators, and I think there's even a lawnmower simulator, I really should not be surprised that there's a market for a train simulator. To that end, this controller would be the solution to getting you more into those kinds of games, because honestly, I think it's absolutely the first controller ever designed for this purpose. Up until this point, all players would have had to use a basic mouse and keyboard control to move their train around, which, while it works, it lacks in both immersion and sheer cool factor that this thing could deliver. I mean, just look at this thing. I mean, I feel overwhelmed just looking at it, much like I would looking at a real train's controls. But that begs the question, how well does it work, and what do all these levers and buttons do exactly? Well, let's find out, shall we? As you can see from the diagram, this thing was and is kind of a beast, but doesn't really have any more controls than a standard controller, at least on the main bank of them. By default, we have brake, e-brake, alert, sand, not sure what that does, pantograph, again, no idea. You train experts can maybe explain this to me, bell, forward and reverse, and throttle, just to name a few. All laid out like, well, I would imagine a train would be laid out. It also has this ridiculous number of buttons along the front that, from what I can tell in the manual, are fully programmable, which is a sheer level of ridiculousness I rarely see, and I look at a lot of high-end controllers, not only for this channel, but for my own personal use as well. This thing even allowed you to set up sound and vibration. No, not game sound. Sounds from the controller itself. That's right, this controller has its own bank of sounds to increase immersion from the controller. This may be the most stupidly over-the-top thing I've seen since the old Steel Battalion controller that came out on the Xbox 360. This thing is beastly. It looks like it even needs its own AC power supply to run it. I'll admit, I had no idea people were this into trains, but I would be lying if I wasn't absolutely amazed, impressed, and overjoyed that something like this exists for those who are. The best thing about this controller oddity is that it's still in production. That's right, you can go out to their website and pick one of these up right now. The only huge disappointment I have is their site. It's a little bare bones, and you can't buy a train conductor hat. I mean, here's a company making a singular product for immersion into trains, and they don't have a RailDriver conductor hat. That just feels like a missed opportunity to me. As for influence, well, it's sort of a unique beast, and it's a pretty niche market, so I'd have to say no, not really. However, it's kind of new in the grand scheme of things, having only come out like in 2003, which is kind of new, at least for this channel. But what do you guys think of this thing, though? Are any of you a fan of this oddity? Have any of you ever used this thing? Did any of you even know about this one? Let me know in the comments. However, for now, thank you so much for watching and spending part of your day with me. If I could ask you for one more favor, please leave this video a like. And if you haven't, consider subscribing. It really does help me out. For now, though, thank you once again, and until next time, happy gaming.